Welcome to the Uncensored Unprofessor, a podcast where I want to think more deeply with you about Christian faith and life. Hey, you believers, you non-believers, unaffiliated believers, sort of believers, you think I'm a believers, welcome. All my 9%ers, welcome. My unstudents, welcome to the Uncensored Unprofessor. Welcome to everyone willing to move beyond bumper stickers and slogans. Welcome to a unique team. This is it's a thinking you fam bam. I'm on a roll here. I could make the whole show an extended welcome. How fun, how how po-mo would that be? Nothing but a long opening. Oh, well, happy 2019 to you. I remember being in junior high thinking, wow, what would it be like to live in the year 2000? That was still 26 years away for young, wavy, blonde-haired, pimple-faced Eddie. And now, 2019, is just wild. You kids listening today, don't you grow old, you hear me? But for you, truly, may 2019 be filled with Christ and His breath, the Holy Spirit of the living God. If you only watch television, you may be unfamiliar with Him. But if you listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos, it'll have been hard for you not to have seen or heard of him, Jordan Peterson. He was a former assistant teacher at Harvard University. He is now professor of clinical psychology at the University of Toronto. He's taught there about 20 years. And Peterson first began to appear on the media radar when he would politely debate students on campus about sex and gender. And even if you disagree with him, I think he's an amazing example of keeping one's cool under pressure. He's married with 2 kids. He's authored 2 books. The first one was called Maps of Meaning, The Architecture of Belief, and it was about the role of myth and narratives in constructing meaning. His second book is entitled 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos. I haven't read it yet. I want to read it. I'm thinking about ordering it, but I understand that the first step is get up and make your bed. So it probably is fairly practical, but knowing him, it'll have tons of philosophical application. He's also published around 100 articles. So the guy is an active scholar. Hey, before I continue, do you want to get updates about the show? Do you want to give me ideas or feedback or critical input about future episodes, future series? Please go to uncensoredunprofessor@gmail.com and register your email. It's very simple to do that. You can go to my webpage too, www.uncensoredunprofessor, and send me your email that way too. I'd love to have you on the list. In the year 2013, Peterson began recording his lectures and uploading them to YouTube. So we're only talking 5-year span here. Today he has over 1.3 million subscribers. And his videos have been watched over 65 million times. He has 425,000 followers on Facebook. He's been on TV shows here in the United States and in Great Britain. Now, early on, he started making about $1,000 a month through Patreon. But if you can believe it today, he makes over $80,000 per month through Patreon. Just thinking, when Probably next year, my Patreon monthly donations hit 80,000 a month. I'm going to throw a big party. We'll rent out a fancy hotel, get some big name musicians, and we'll have an enormous unparty. $80,000 a month. That's on top of his salary and speaking fees, and the guy's got it going on. Why? Why would people who've never personally met him continually monthly give him money, even though I don't think he needs that money? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. He's a celebrity, and he's a celebrity for several intriguing reasons. He's no milquetoast. People either love him or hate him. And I'm going to try today to explain to you why he is both loved and hated. And obviously the ruckus about him depends upon one's own worldview. So here we go. Why is Jordan Peterson a star? Well, I think first it's because he believes there's more to human nature and reality than can be understood. He's not a materialist. Now, if you listen and watch, he doesn't much use the words spirit or soul, but he does realize, goodness, together with millennia worth of philosophers, he does realize that consciousness is transcendent in the universe. Along the lines of human nature, he also believes dreams can communicate real meaning and truth to us. And he'll admit he doesn't know how to put that mystery, he doesn't know how to describe that transcendence with words, but he's okay with that. I think he likes that we are amazing, mysterious, profoundly difficult to understand. And it goes to our divinity or our divine nature, and he does believe in God. Look, I don't think people like being told that all they are merely blobs of energized, electrified matter. We don't feel like that's all we are, right? It's kind of like the news story I just read. A guy was driving his new black Lexus SUV with every possible upgrade down the Indiana interstate when he pulled off into a gas station. When he opened the door to his sleek, new black Lexus SUV, an inattentive truck driver talking on his cell phone drove a little bit too close to the parked Lexus and tore off its door. Witnesses to the accident heard the man wailing, "Oh my God, my Lexus," over and over again. As the onlookers checked to see if the man was okay, the chagrined Lexus owner continued to rant, "Oh my God, my Lexus." One observant bystander, however, noticed that in addition to tearing off the door of the Lexus, the errant truck had also torn off the Lexus owner's arm. When the bystander remarked that it wasn't just the car but the man's arm the driver should be worried about, the Lexus owner, surprised, looked down at the bloody stump that was once his arm and exclaimed, "Oh my God, my Rolex." Thank you, Dr. James Roberts, for that joke. You guys, despite our own era's materialistic bent, most people just know we're more than matter. We are somehow transcendent. And Peterson gets that. He speaks cogently to that, and so he connects with people through that. He connects with theists of all religions and all stripes. So first, he likes the transcendent nature of humanity. Second, I think he's a star because he openly says he doesn't like ideology, right or left, because they become false prisons for existence and free thinking. He argues that ideologies create false dualisms. And because of that, he has a kind of magnetic pull on people who are exhausted by the public yelling and screaming, the constant anger and cynicism of political ideology. And if you listen, he will criticize both the right and left. However, it's the left, and I'm going to explain why, it's the left who particularly hates his guts. So, secondly, he doesn't like ideology, right or left. Third, I think he's a star because Peterson, and he calls himself a depth psychologist, he loves to process the deep, mysterious, elusive, he likes to call them mythical components of life. He's a Jungian psychologist, and Jung was huge on myth and the role of myth. So myth doesn't have to be a lie or a false construction. Myth can be a meaning cloud or a semblance or a quotient or a form or a package of truth. And myths, for Peterson, myths may not be literally true, but sometimes myths convey more meaning and more broadly impact entire cultures than literal truth. And you should know, I think it's important for how we view his religious faith. Peterson has a brutal time with literal day-to-day truth. And that's not me saying that, that's him talking. He doesn't claim to be a theologian. He's fascinated by theology, but he's especially fascinated by the myths, the truth packages that are at work in theology. I watched a 5-minute video by a Roman Catholic bishop by the last name of Barron, Barron. And he noted in a video that Dr. Peterson tends toward the Gnostic. Peterson likes archetypal truth, mythic truth, but not literal truth. So he likes the deep things of life. I'm not sure sometimes he overcomplicates things, but he's fascinating to listen to on those things. So thinking here about literal truth as a Christian, as a theologian, Peterson doesn't believe in a literal resurrection of Jesus in space and time, which I think is interesting. He also believes the Bible is psychologically true. And you should know he has an entire 17-part series on the Bible. Each one's like an hour and a half. And he's fascinating to listen to. I'm a seasoned theologian, and I've learned from his insights about the Bible. But the Bible for him, even though the Bible's not always literally true, the Bible accords with reality. He says it gives meaning to reality and makes sense of reality. And if you listen, he'll say that the Bible has a kind of divine wisdom. And then still more here on myth and truth applied to the Bible. He says the Bible's not propaganda. It's not just saying things to control us. And Peterson argues that anything that's propagandistic will not be remembered. People across centuries, across decades, do not keep repeating propaganda. But the Bible kept getting repeated over and over and over for centuries and centuries and centuries because it has this powerful effect upon people, a powerful effect of truth upon people. That's kind of where Peterson's take on the Bible is from a 30,000-foot level. It's time for some shout-outs. This week, with the help of a professional, former Hollywood-trained videographer, you guys, I'm recording 3 30-minute videos, and I'm calling the series How to Survive the College Avalanche with Your Christian Faith Intact. Loving Christian parents around the nation are spending thousands of dollars, even taking a second mortgage on their house to pay for their kids' college education, only to have that same child come home angry, disillusioned, and cynical about Christianity. Why? Why does that happen? Maybe you, my listener, are wondering why that happened to you. Well, I'm not only going to explain why that happens in the videos, I'm also going to give 11 practical steps that one can take to try not to get crushed by the ideological avalanche of a 21st century university. Would you like to help me fund that expensive endeavor? Please go to Patreon, Patreon. Please go to Patreon and make a one-time pledge of $25 or more. This month's swagging of the mail, Vinny, Maria, Gus, and John, thank you. Welcome to the Team U4. Hope you enjoy that UU swag. My dear, can't take your ear away from your phone listener, $5 a month pledge at Patreon will get you some stickers and a UU coaster. $20 a month more pledges get the sticker and a coaster and a coffee mug. And $5 a month more pledges get access to 2 exclusive podcasts for members only. This last month I produced one on the mystery of Advent and another on the magic of color and beauty. Would you please prayerfully consider being part of the UU mission? I've said it before and I'll say it again, but even $1 and $2 pledges add up. I have some $1 and $2 pledgers now, and I'm glad to have them on the team. So thank you. Oh, and thank you for the Facebook love. New listeners Scott M. and RJR. I say it, but it's true. Those shares help me get out the word. And then one last businessy thing. I'm going to start doing monthly live Facebook videos and interactions. I haven't decided what day or time I'm going to land on for that, but do you have questions for the UU? Do you have ideas for the show? Topics you want to think through? I'm going to be engaging with you live very soon, and you can track all of that on the Uncensored Unprofessor Facebook page. All right, let's continue with why is Jordan Peterson a star? Love him or hate him. Why is he a star? Fourth, he speaks with precision and humility. Now, this drives the sheeple dialogue partners crazy. He does his best not to get into shouting matches with the emotionally inflamed. He does his best not to go back and forth with them, and that he keeps his cool drives them crazy. But he's willing to consider careful, thoughtful, reasoned arguments, which, again, drives the spoiled kids in the audience crazy. Because, right, children and teenagers, they just want to yell and scream, and when he doesn't do that, it just makes them all the more nutso. Recently, someone told me that Peterson is a pseudo-intellectual, but goodness, the guy can talk philosophy with anyone. He probably knows more philosophy than 99% of all the psychologists in the world. And just because you don't agree with someone, just because someone makes you want to pee your pants in your temper tantrum during your temper tantrum, it doesn't make someone a pseudo-intellectual. And he knows how to talk with people without using unnecessary high-blown rhetoric. And he speaks with precision and humility. Refreshing it is. Number 5, why is Peterson a star? He knows that science and biology show that human beings are fundamentally male and female. Now, it's one thing to argue from religious commitments. It's another thing to argue from biology. Those are different ways of making arguments. And Peterson, again, a trained clinician, he knows that biology makes us into men and women, and that makes us thoroughly different from birth. He argues from science. He also argues from decades worth of counseling and study. He says that our very cellular structure, not just our genitalia, but our very cellular structure is different because of our maleness and femaleness. And honestly, I think this is huge to what put him on the radar of public consciousness. There are early YouTube videos of him discussing sex with University of Toronto students, and the conversations sort of go like this. Student: why are you so hateful? Jordan Peterson: tell me how I'm hateful. Student: you say that human sexuality is rooted in biology. Peterson: well, I don't say that. Science says that. Genetics says that. Biology says that, yes. Student: why do you use science to make hateful arguments? Peterson: that you don't like the evidence of science does not make it hateful. Student: well, that's just what you say, and who are you to say? Peterson: no, that's just what science says. It's not hateful to state scientific facts. Student: it's hateful the way you do it. Peterson: what is the particular way I do it? Student: by reciting straight facts. It's a misogynistic, transgender-phobic, cisgendered way of making an argument. Peterson: let me ask, why are you in college? What are you doing here if you don't want to learn facts? Student: how dare you challenge me? Just because I'm a native Canadian trans woman, you think you have the right to say I don't want to learn? Peterson: no. I think that you don't want to learn the facts indicates that you probably have no business being in college. Student: you're positively advocating violence with those scientific facts. Peterson: I'm sorry, I believe we're at an impasse. I want to talk facts and you want to shout assertions. Student: get off our campus! Get out! Get out! Peterson: I'm a full-time professor here. It's really something to watch. And it's something to watch the people in the crowd around him too. But don't believe me, go watch a YouTube video, and if you don't chuckle out loud, it'll break your heart. Again, what passes for deep argumentation on a college campus today? Because students don't know how to follow a line of inquiry or a logical construction, and then Peterson will keep his cool, and like I said, it just drives the university folks nutso. Anyway, back to the point. Most people know that human beings are fundamentally male or female. Every culture on the planet for 12,000 years has built society on the basis of male and female. And Peterson, using science, both hard sciences and applied sciences, that resonates with common sense. And people love that. Why is Jordan Peterson a star? My reason number 6. He does not like the deconstructionism of Harry Potterism. he does not like the deconstructionism of postmodernism. That he takes that stance drives other deconstructionist professors, today's popular kids, drives them crazy. Now, he recognizes that economics and culture and class variations are all complicated and interwoven, so that he's aware and understands an appropriate critique of the Western status quo. But he doesn't think that postmodernism leaves us in a better place than we already were. Now, this was my teaching, my position while I was teaching, my exact diagnosis. Postmodernism is good at analysis, but it's horrible at prescription. The postmodernism gets that we do things through groups, do reality in groups, but it doesn't know how to bring those groups together. It's sort of like if you went to a medical doctor who is a postmodernist, he might say, "Hey, I've done some tests and you have a fever." And then his prescription would be, "Here, I want you to go eat this bag of Pop Rocks for a month." It knows how to take things apart. It doesn't know how to put them back together. Deconstructionism wants to pull things down, but 40 years in, it seems directionless to be able to build things up. People like that Peterson gets that and that he calls that out. And Peterson knows that for all of its problems, Western culture has produced the greatest amount of good of any culture on the planet. And he will throw in that the Judeo-Christian tradition is foundational to Western culture. Now, I've watched Dr. Peterson for many hours on YouTube. I've listened to him on podcasts, and he says there's an enduring wisdom to the Judeo-Christian tradition. The kind of wisdom that comes from people seeking the best ideas, ennobling ideas, but ideas that are practiced and critiqued, and all of that over centuries on end. And no, he doesn't give Christianity, the Judeo-Christian tradition, a free pass. He doesn't say it's without fault. He doesn't even like to go to church. But he believes that it has produced so much that's good and beautiful. And he doesn't like that the deconstructionists in the government and universities are trying to take all that apart. So it's a pretty nuanced view. I've watched with other people who see him as overly sophisticated, but he's trying to explain things, delicate, nuanced things in a careful way. Reason number 7, why is Jordan Peterson a star? Now, this is not me saying this is him. He despises the speech codes of the left. He doesn't like ad hominem argumentation, ad hominem Latin for to the man or personal argumentation. So when people say you're hateful, that's not really a good argument. Or when people say, well, you're just a man, that's not relevant to a serious engagement. But those are the kind of arguments he commonly faces after he gives university speeches or lectures, or after he gives a television interview. TV interviewers constantly try to shame him by calling him names, and he responds with logical and informed arguments. And he recognizes that there's a substantial movement on the left that wants to end free speech. And he sees that as a substantial threat to Western civilization and liberty. So, it follows that people who don't like ad hominem arguments find his style engaging. They find his tack intriguing. And I think people admire other people who can face the avalanche of emotion and remain calm. Rudyard Kipling once wrote a famous poem entitled If, and the opening stanza goes like this: if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can be lied about but don't deal in lies, or be hated but don't give way to hating, and then the last stanza, yours is the earth and everything in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. And I think Peterson embodies that ability to reason, to think, to argue, to talk out loud, and all of that in public. And common people admire that ability. Or not. Hey, look over there. That chimpanzee is playing a red violin. I've been reading an intriguing book, The Righteous Mind, by Jonathan Haidt, H-I-D-T. Thank you, Dennis. Haidt is a secular Jew. He's a social psychologist who studies moral formation from an evolutionary perspective. See, no, I don't only read theology. I am willing to think far beyond the pale of Christian orthodoxy. And Haidt argues cogently, I think. He argues that we human beings are 90% chimps and 10% bees. The chimp nature goes to our selfish undercurrent. We are always evaluating social situations with an eye to our own personal benefit. We are self-directed most of the time. The 10% B of human nature goes to our amazing ability to set aside our chimp nature. We can agree together on a set goal, like the well-being of children or the good of the community, the good of a nation, like selfless bees in a hive. And when we do things together, we not only enjoy a powerful social bond, we can even feel a sense of transcendence, awe. And along the way, Haidt talks about how shared physical movement, like dancing, worship, exercising, marching, that is an especially powerful force to human beings. And then, drawing upon all of that, and he backs it up with loads of stats and a sweep of history of studying morality, he even has little snippets where he shows how the information can be used, for instance, on how to form and lead groups. Listen to this snippet. Quote, "To make a human hive, you want everyone to feel like family. So don't call attention to racial and ethnic differences. Make them less relevant by ramping up similarity and celebrating the group's shared values and common identity. A great deal of research in social psychology shows that people are warmer and more trusting toward people who look like them, dress like them, talk like them, or even just share their first name or birthday. There's nothing special about race. You can make people care less about race by drowning race differences in a sea of similarities, shared goals, and mutual interdependencies." End quote. It's from a secular Jew. So, me, of course I love that. I believe the American strife is far less about skin color or ethnic background and far more about cultural differences. We can come together if we want to, if we can find common values, practices, beliefs. And I wonder if this is all as much about willingness as it is about putting one another into the shame corner. Oh, and here's one other gem from Haidt. You can create environments that will nudge people toward the hive mentality. To do that, increase similarity, not diversity, because you want to make everyone feel like family. Amazing. Amazing. We can be united. We can find common cause. We can find simpatico. But it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen as long as we're landing on emphasizing that skin color is what defines us. Lord have mercy, Christ have mercy. And And thank you, God, that a secular Jew can see such things and teach us such things. I love that kind of delicious irony. Number 8. Why is Jordan Peterson a star? He has courage. Now, if you know me, you know that out of all the virtues, I love courage. In fact, my listener, I relish the fact that you've mustered up the courage to catch up to my level.
That is so funny.
Thank you, Will Long, for that goofy pun. Aristotle once said that the rarest of all virtues is courage. Man, I say amen. It's brutally difficult to find courageous people. Whether it's at a church, or in politics, or in the education industry, holy shnikes. Winston Churchill echoed Aristotle. Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all others. Without courage, the other virtues, goodness, beauty, truth, loyalty, compassion, without courage, those would all be taken apart on the Serengeti plain of life. The powerful would always beat down and refine all the other virtues if there was no one courageous enough to take a stand. And Jordan Peterson is seen by millions as taking a public stand. This doesn't come easy to him. He says that he struggles with constant stomach problems. But I think he proves that good-hearted people really do want to think through, rather than shout through, bully their way through complex challenges and issues. And Peterson loves ideas. You need to listen to him. He's always talking about very sophisticated abstractions. And people are drawn to that like a magnet. I think people want to think, and they like thinking with him. They like that he challenges their thinking. They like that he teaches them things. Finally, today, you guys, to summarize all the points above, Jordan Peterson is a kind of outlier. Let me just list some reasons why that's the case, why he's an outlier. He's a professor on a Canadian university campus, but he appreciates American contributions to history and civilization. And some people see that as a betrayal. He speaks without tons of affect or emotion, but he makes fascinating points. He's a psychologist, but he knows heavyweight philosophy and philosophers. He openly wrestles with his own doubts and struggles. He doesn't come across as a dogmatic know-it-all. He appreciates Christianity, but he doesn't want to go to church. He loves Jesus Christ, but not the resurrected Jesus Christ of the apostles. He thinks the Bible is mind-blowingly awesome, but not for reasons that Christians do. He refuses to think lockstep with the latest trends or fads of the university, and honestly, I think that's what makes him profoundly hated. His university colleagues think he is dangerous. He can influence people's thinking against the swelling popular tide. And guess what? The swelling tide no appreciate that. Thank you truly for listening today. Happy New Year. May your 2019 be a hallmark. Turn your brains on, everybody. Thank you so much for listening today, and please, turn your brains on, everybody.